You shoot me in a dream, you better wake up and apologize.
Stuff your sorries in the sack, mister.
I thought it was there.
Congratulations! You've unlocked All Apologies, a show about apology tours and demanding satisfaction. I'm your host, Andy Q. Public, and with me, as always, is, well, not as always, we have Fat Edzee here today. Say hi, Fat Edzee.
Hi, Fat Edzee.
Yeah, okay. And with me, as always, is your co-host, Joe Sixpack. Joe, what's going on, buddy?
March 9th, Comedy at the Carlson, Subreddit Surfing Live, featuring Cardiff Electric and Vinnie Paulino. All Apologies podcast.
Get excited!
Carl Hamburger doing stand-up that he did not write. He will almost certainly talk about the men that he had sex with the night before and all the naps that he took. So come witness that. And then Andy, you've been I've really been liking your live Instagram posts.
Thank you.
I don't know about live, right? But it's you delivering a story instead of us just reading a story. So changing it up a little bit. I've really been loving those. But you're going to be going live pre and post Subreddit Surfing Live, right?
Thank you for saying that. Yes, I was just mentioning on the mini show that I am going to be utilizing our YouTube live channel to do some pre and post game interviews and roundup behind the scenes things, just more compelling, putting you there. If you can't be there and buy a ticket and support the show in that way, please check out the YouTube channel, because I'll have some interviews with Cardiff Electric and producer Chris. You'll be able to see what Joe Sixpack is wearing before he does it on the show.
Shove Andy's phone under a ladies' room stall while live on YouTube.
Right.
You mean a men's room stall, because he doesn't care about ladies.
Well, we're trying to build an audience. It's not what Andy likes. It's what other people would like.
Sorry.
But at any rate, on our YouTube channel, we're going to have a pregame thing. And then the whole All Apologies segment from the live show will be on the Patreon. So consider joining the Patreon for just $5 a month. And then we're going to have a post-show roundup. Cardiff's going to be hosting a karaoke thing where all the guests and probably me are going to get up on stage and embarrass themselves. So there's going to be things worth checking out on the YouTube channel and the Patreon.
Kindy will boo everyone.
Yes.
Be good.
Kindy will be making me feel bad for myself live on YouTube today. Well, before we get to our main segment today, we have to get to this.
Way to go, dude!
Right.
Joe,
and we had a bunch of engagement and interaction on Instagram here. I don't know how far the All Apologies jurisdiction reaches, but you deserve an apology from Lady K. Your favorite band sucks is the most insufferable garbage, and he used it after taking it off the table. Complete corruption.
Right. That's a WATP centric apology, because Carl said he wasn't going to bring Your Favorite Band Sucks to the music review podcast segment where we compete on WATP between who brought the worst show. And Carl brought that, and I brought Josh Jones reviewing the Tom McDonald song Facts featuring Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
And Carl brought a show that he said he wasn't going to bring, and then I think he ended up winning with that. So Carl does owe me an apology for that. I should have won that. So fuck you, Carl.
That Josh Jones show was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Unk was pretty good.
Yeah, Unk was the best. What else do we got, Joe?
All right, let's see. Next we have, for the Oprah episode, Oprah should apologize for sicking her bees on those poor innocent people. That excellent meme. Then we have an Oprah and Monique again, it looks like. I demand an apology on behalf of Rum Raisin.
Right. We said Monique was rum raisin ice cream. Dave Chappelle was chocolate and Monique was rum raisin. And Monique was just being nothing but a problem. So Monique owes us all an apology.
And you know what? I'm going to have to. This is bad at karate. I will commit to trying rum raisin ice cream. I don't think I've ever had it. And I'm an asshole that likes banana ice cream. So I think it's up my alley. I'll give it a shot.
Shout out Bad
Bad
at
at
Karate. I know Bad at
Yeah,
Karate's
and
working
before we do
hard.
that, I was Uncle Sammy Poo on the bees one, and Mike Cobb won for the calling out Carl, just to make sure we get everybody's names in there.
Due respect.
And then, okay, I need to read this to see. This is Christian DMZ. I need to read this to see who they are apologizing to. You'd think the people who would be the most upset would be Nazis.
Oh, right. That's Christian Blatt, and he is referring to we just talked about it on the mini-sode, the AI generated Nazis of color. So he's saying if you were a Nazi and they made you a black Nazi, if you were that Nazi, you would be offended that you were a black Nazi. Get it?
Who cares? But yeah.
Nobody's worried about the way Nazis feel.
Oh, we offended the Nazis? Who gives a shit?
You're a Mexican Nazi. But I mean, it's a joke. Good. Christian, thank you. Christian's a big supporter of the show. So shout out Christian Blatt. Check out WATB.
Mm-hmm. And so then you did the flashback to Colleen Ballinger, and Uncle Sammy Poo commented, I retract my demand for an apology from Andy the Goat QAnon Public and humbly apologize for misunderstanding him on that episode of WATP. What's that about, Andy?
I mean, I need all the apologies I could get. So it's just,
Okay.
I didn't know you were QAnon. That's amazing.
That's gonna be my new handle. It's Andy QAnon Public.
I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah. Is that it, Joe?
That is it. Should I bump it?
Take it to the bridge. All right. Well, this is a very special episode, as they used to say back in the 80s about episodes of television, because we had a whole package planned out. And you might be wondering why Ed is featured so prominently on the screen. It's because usually we send all our clips to Ed, and we had a whole thing put together for the Ruby Frankie, Jody Hildebrand child abuse thing that we were going to cover. And I was feeling like it was a bit dark and whatnot. We were still going to do it. But then on Friday, I saw that Jim Florentine put a post on Instagram, and it's just been stuck in my brain, and I can't let it go. So I was out in having a nice time with my wife for her birthday. We were spending the night at a hotel, and it just could not shake Jim Florentine's post. And Jim Florentine doesn't need my help. We're going to cover a lot of people. This is very centric to Louis J. Gomez and Kurt Metzger and Jim Florentine are all being affected by this in a professional way. That they're going to be fine. Go ahead, Joe.
Don't leave out Dave Smith, who was protested in Rochester when he performed here.
Yeah, I'm less familiar with Dave Smith. Who's Dave Smith, Joe?
He's on Legion of Skanks with Lewis. And
okay, all right. So
the third mic on that.
Right. So on Friday, February 23rd, Jim Florentine posted an email that he received to his Instagram account. And I don't normally get triggered, and I wouldn't even call it triggered. I was just incensed, and I can't stop thinking about it. So I have to talk about it here. And because, Ed does a lot of hard work, Joe does a lot of hard work, and I took all their hard work and threw it in the garbage. So I'm just having them here so I can rant and rave about this to them and get their reaction to this, because they're a little less familiar with what's going on. But I'm going to read Florentine's post here.
Andy texted us, and he was like,
I'm just about that action, boss.
Yes.
I'm going to take this over.
This is the way this is an email that Jim Florentine received. And we're gonna dissect this.
Here,
But
how about I'll read this because you're going to do a lot of talking.
great.
All right. After careful consideration and discussions with our team, investors, local comedians, and neighborhood advocacy groups, we've encountered a challenging situation that requires us to revisit the planned shows. Capitol Hill is known for its progressive values, and we've received significant feedback expressing concerns about the alignment of these upcoming shows with the neighborhood's ethos. This feedback includes concerns from local advocacy groups that are deeply embedded in our community and work towards upholding its values.
Right. Okay. So this goes on, but that particular part of the email invokes Capitol Hill. So this is in Seattle, right?
Can we dissect that statement or are we
Yes,
going to
please.
get to that?
Do you want me to bring it back up? Because I would love to dissect the statement.
Let's
I mean,
dissect
it
that
just
statement.
sounds like it really sounds like a place I want to go hang out in. It
Doesn't
sounds like
it?
these are a lot of really fun people, and they really hate the idea of bringing in huge, I mean, absolutely huge names in the comedy world, and these giant national acts are going to bring in tons of people to spend money in their hovels. Like, I don't understand what.
Well, they clearly know comedy. But let's just go line by line here. Careful consideration and discussions with our team, investors, local comedians. Let's bring them in the mix.
Again,
And
local comedians should be going, yes, bring them in so we can open. They're going to
Right.
bring in so many people into this venue that we would never get to see.
That's true. But also, local comedians get told what to fucking do. Okay. You don't let them, you don't let the fucking monkeys run the zoo.
That's
Right.
why they're local comedians.
And neighborhood advocacy groups.
Yes.
What we have so many fucking advocacy groups. We have ones for our fucking neighborhood.
Right. And I guess we need to establish up front that this is all revolving around the fact that a bunch of comedians that include Jim Florentine, that include Kurt Metzger, that include Dave Smith and Louis J. Gomez, these guys have had gigs just taken away from them at Capitol Hill in Seattle. And so I really wanted to cover this because I know, like I said, these guys are going to be fine. They're going to book other gigs. They're professionals. They're going to go on to bigger and better things. I'm mad about this as of somebody that consumes comedy and wants to go to these shows. If Kurt Metzger's if I bought tickets to Kurt Metzger and they canceled it out from under me because of a fucking advocacy group and local comedians and investors, I'd be livid. And this
town would never see me buy a cup of coffee there again.
Correct. And it's just getting to a point where these people that are being vocal about what they're offended by are taking things away from people that are not offended by it. Like, I want to go to that shit. Why? I don't care if you don't want to go. Just don't fucking go.
Yeah, Andy. So you hit the nail on the head when you said that none of these people will suffer an iota. If nothing else, they don't have to fly all the way across the fucking country to go do a show where nobody would laugh at anything that they said. So in a way, they're doing them a favor. So, but that's beyond the point. You nailed it when you're like somebody like myself, like West Coast Joe doesn't get to see Kurt Metzger. Now, let me just
because of the neighborhood's ethos, whatever the fuck that means.
I just want to say this real quick before, if anybody doesn't know, these are 100% some of the best comedians working right now. Kurt Metzger, in my opinion, is on the level of, one generation. Oh, that's exactly who I was going to say. One generation down from Dave Attell. He is, in my opinion, probably one of the funniest people doing stand-up comedy today. And for you to be like, we're too good for Kurt Metzger is
insulting.
It's insulting. It's insulting to anyone. who knows anything about comedy, and you're revealing yourself to be somebody who's completely ignorant of it, of what's funny, because we went to their, maybe we'll get into that later, we went to their fucking website to see who's good enough to perform at Capitol Hill. Who do they
Hilda.
approve
I'm,
of?
I'm sure it's a real list of just
The only
headliners
person
and
I knew was
A-listers.
Eddie Pepitone. That's the only person I knew, and I think they only have him because he's fucking old, and they didn't want to seem ageist.
Well,
Yeah.
and because he's relatively clean.
No, he's not. He's in
I
some
know.
Dude, I know what you're saying. It's like, how does Ed Pepitone slip through the cracks, but Luis J. Gomez doesn't? It's insane. And before we move on, I just have to point out that this Capitol Hill, if everybody wants to remember back to 2020 when the whole George Floyd thing blew up, the Chaz, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, it was a laughing stock of, the polar opposite of the Occupy Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street was a bunch of blue collar guys that were mad that they were being sort of like taken advantage of, and they posted up and they turned the whole park into a homeless encampment. This Chaz thing back in 2020 was the woke version of that, right? Do you guys remember this?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to read this real quick. I found like a recap of it. And it said, despite its festive reputation, stories were beginning to emerge of residents being harassed by demonstrators and businesses being asked to pay extortion fees if they wanted to continue operating inside the zone. While the police department denied that it had received any such complaints, questions were being raised about the safety and welfare of the local community, who now found themselves trying to exist inside the boundaries of an area that was perceived to be mostly lawless. Additionally, the number of tents was increasing inside Cale Anderson Park, as was the level of trash, leading to concerns that the Chaz was becoming another homeless encampment. On June 29th, a fifth shooting took place near 12th Avenue and Pike, leaving 2 teen boys in critical condition, calling the situation dangerous and unacceptable. By July 3rd, the 3 weeks of occupation had officially come to an end. After the area was cleared of protesters, city workers began the task of cleaning up trash and pressure washing the area clean of graffiti. Streets were reopened to traffic, though city leaders promised they would do everything possible to preserve the Black Lives Matter mural on Pine Street. So that's the people that we're dealing with here. Those are the people that are calling the shots about comedy in Seattle right now.
The local politicians in the Chaz were heard to say that it's becoming it looks like
666.
Yeah.
like a hellscape.
It fucking fizzled out because moms couldn't afford to send pizzas down there to keep up the protest. It was a disaster. And it's all self-righteous motherfuckers that have no idea what it takes to run shit. And they're humorless.
They should have let it just play out. I mean, obviously, when boys are getting murdered, you can't just let it go. But I think anybody with a more stout-hearted perspective on the situation would have been like, this is what they wanted.
Well, and I mean, they tried to do that in Portland, right? And they like pulled all the police funding completely out of there. They said, you know what? Don't even go in there. Right. So it was the same sort of situation. Then it becomes Lord of the Flies. And then you have to do something about it.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's so unwieldy.
That's funny that you mentioned that, Ed, because I have a follow-up that is adjacent to that. I mean, we're talking about Seattle and the Chaz, but Portland is another one. I used to think I would like it in Portland, but now I'm really not so sure. But let's move on to the second part of this email, Joe. Why don't you read this for everybody?
Sure. Given the feedback and to avoid any potential negative impact on both our club and the artists involved, as well as to maintain the harmony within our community, we believe that the most responsible course of action is to not move forward with the shows for Dave Smith on April 11th, Luis J. Gomez, for May 31st through June 1st, Jim Florentine for September 20th and 21st, and sadly, Kurt Metzger on October 11th and 12th as well.
Why is it sad? Why is it sadly for Kurt? That's
probably because they already had all the fucking the tickets sold. White Precious is fucking so good. Anybody, if you have not listened to White Precious, you are missing out. No, Kurt Metzger is so intelligent and comes from such a place of an informed commentary on life. The decision was not made lightly, and we want to ensure it does not reflect on your talent and the quality of your work, but is instead a reflection of our community to our community, our commitment to our community's values. It is a reflection of how stupid you fucking are and how ignorant you are of the art form of stand-up comedy. That's what it's.
And First Amendment rights, for fuck's sake.
So I think this is going to go into a much bigger thing here, where it's really my outrage is more important than your joy, your opinion, your knowledge, whatever, because it's my outrage.
Well, that's a good
and
point.
I'm outraged, and that's why, and I'm outraged.
Well, that's what it's come to now. People being upset about shit and canceling shit that I want to see. Now I have to be outraged and struggle. I have to protest to get things that I want. Now you're protesting to get things that you don't want to see, not here. So I have to go to bat for things that I actually want. And that's what this is right now. This is me saying, what the fuck? Like, can't I go to a comedy show and enjoy myself and see people that tell jokes that I enjoy without some dildo standing out front trying to get in my way while I try and get in the building?
No, you can't.
Right.
I have Capitol Hill Comedy, their website pulled up. Do you want to look at their lineup, their upcoming shows?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'd love to know what's
more than I want
replacing
to take my
Kurt
next breath.
Metzger. I'd love to know what's replacing my boy Jim Florentine, who is a friend of WATP and the nicest man that I've ever met in person. Like, he did not have to come over and meet everybody and talk to us and tell us that he enjoys what we're doing as much as we enjoy what he's doing. But he's that type of guy, and he's just, there's no reason to shut down his shit and fucking fuck with his livelihood, and it's pissing me off to no fucking end.
He's friends with Chad Zumock. That's how nice of a guy he is.
Yeah. All right, let's see what they got on tap at Capitol Hill Comedy.
Fun and flirty.
Capitol
Fun
Hill
and flirty. That's how we're going to start this.
Yeah, cross off the comedy part of this, by the way, because that's not happening there.
Oh, this is good. Nobody ever does this. This is like this is the equivalent of fucking trivia night or karaoke. Comedy Family Feud. This is what we're fucking putting up front here. I mean, I guess it's the next closest.
Okay, I see an Asian woman. I see a guy that looks Middle Eastern. They're very, very woke. Thank you, Capitol Hill.
Vikram, Andy. Hilarious. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he is, but
all these nobodies. A bunch of fucking nobodies.
Yep. I'm sure she's not straight. Viewpoint calendar.
I mean, but they do have the Dope Show, so they're going to play the entire Marilyn Manson album.
All right, It's garbage. It's a bunch of horse shit. Let's see the rest of the explanation about why I can't go see Louis J. Gomez.
We will also ensure that any tickets sold are refunded promptly to our patrons, and we will communicate this decision to them with the sensitivity and respect it deserves. We truly value the art of comedy and the diverse perspectives it brings to our lives. It's our hope that we can find a way to work together in the future under different circumstances. In the meantime, we are committed to making this transition as smooth as possible and are here to discuss any concerns or questions you may have. Before I let you guys go on this, I think it's hilarious that they're going to convey to Louis J. Gomez and Dave Smith's audience in a very sensitive way that the show has been canceled. Like, you're not going to offend these people, okay? They're offended that it was canceled. Right. That's what they're offended by.
Or on the other side of this, they're all going, "Oh, thank God. We don't have to go deal with those assholes."
Yeah. I mean,
By the way, the thing that you missed on here is that the last Saturday of every month they do a friendship dungeon.
oh my God. What
The grizzled and cuddly hearts of two of Seattle's comedy's most tolerated wizard grandpas.
Oh my God.
that's a real thing?
I'm looking right at it. I'm on the website too. It's fucking terrible.
The one of the Wheel of Consequences thing for Carl and Vinny should be to go attend that show, Ed.
The friendship dungeon, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the open mic Queers to the Front.
Go see any show at Capitol Hill.
I'm not making this up. It's all right here.
Yeah.
Okay, this is
Comedy/bar.com, everyone. Comedy/bar.com.
this is the end of it. I mean, it's whatever. It doesn't even matter. Florentine was nice enough to redact the person's name, the owner and manager of it, but you're not a hero. No, I have it too. We're gonna get it's not gonna go unsaid. But Florentine was classy enough to cut it out, is my only point. Because you're not a champion of comedy. You don't respect comedians. Just wrap it up. Just go do fucking trivia night and bingo night and gay wizard friendship night, whatever you're pitching over there as entertainment, it's garbage. Now, I do want to point out that this isn't the first time that this shit has been tried in the Pacific Northwest, also known as where comedy and free speech go to die, because First Amendment hero Michael Rappaport had a gig at Helium, and Rapp had been outspoken about his stance about what's going on in Israel and Palestine. And guess what? He's entitled to his opinion. He's a Jewish guy, and he can have his opinions about what he thinks is going on over there. But they decided that because he thinks what he thinks, that he can't make a living in Portland. Okay? So,
Andy,
what?
Did you watch like the links in the article? Like I read that article and then they linked to certain videos or whatever.
Yeah.
The only important for people to maybe understand in this conversation, all of the posts that he was making, he was in Tel Aviv. He was in Israel.
He's over there. He was supposed to be here. Dude, he was supposed to be here on New Year's Eve. I had tickets for his show, and he canceled it and went to Israel.
Right.
That's how much he cares about what's going on over there.
But so we're about to get into this topic of somebody who has a lot of commentary on it from a perspective that is from Portland. Like it's the perspective, the person and the perspective is staying in Portland. Meanwhile, Michael Rappaport is actually in Israel and telling you what's going on in Tel Aviv right now. Now, I don't know. I have no position one way or the other. You know what I have? My position is pacifism. Okay, it shouldn't be going on. All right, it is my position. But beyond that, I trust Michael Rappaport, who's adjacent to the problem, versus some dickhead who just doesn't like that he's going to come perform at a comedy club.
Right. Not wanting to see any harm to come to people is a human stance to take. That's great. But what the rest of the sane world needs to understand is that the folks calling for comedians to be canceled literally aren't libs. These are not liberal people anymore. They've gone all the way past and all the way around to fascism now, because you're not allowing someone to have an opinion and make a living.
Andy,
Are you a psychiatrist?
No, I'm a sociologist right now because I'm trying to fucking understand why it's so concerning for people to make what they think is going on thousands and thousands of miles away the business of somebody who's trying to make a living in comedy around the corner from me, right? So, but they're clutching their pearls like they're at a Starbucks instead of in a Catholic church in Kansas. That's like there's no left or right. It's just extremists being dickheads. That's where we're at.
Westboro Baptist Church in Kansas City.
Whatever. But
Yeah, they suck too.
yeah. Now my point is that this dude Miguel Lewis, who writes for some shit rag called Medium, had an article that called to boycott Michael Rappaport at Helium nightclub. And this is just like a choice quote from that, because the title of the article reads, Michael Rappaport is a racist. It starts out like this. It says, for weeks, we have boosted a call to action in an attempt to cancel the upcoming shows of one man named Michael Rappaport at the Helium Comedy Club on the 12th through the 14th of January. The emails and calls were meant to urge the Helium Comedy Club to listen to the Portland community, not platform someone that has become a mouthpiece for the IOF. Otherwise, we intended to protest the comedy club and call for a boycott.
I think the reason that he's failing to amplify this call to action is because he's got 31 followers on Medium. Not that we have tons of followers or anything, but
that's a good point. That's great.
I just want to offset this by saying that the whole Jeffrey Epstein kerfuffle is purported to be a Israeli government psyop for so Jeffrey Epstein gathering essentially leverage against prominent people for Israel. Whether that's true or not, allegedly. But so there's no clean hands here. You know, it's just like, hey, this is across the world. It's not in my neighborhood. You know, I can't. I don't have a neighborhood advocacy group to lean on in this situation here. Okay,
we should start one.
What do I know? You know, I'm not 24 in fucking Portland. Writing, you know what I'm most fucking irritated by? That this fucking asshole wrote like a 10-page expose on Helium Comedy Club.
Yeah.
And people are reading it.
Miguel.
Okay, the real point though is that this is the vocal minority. These are people that have their opinions and have nothing but time on their hands to make calls to Helium, write emails to Helium, and threaten to go protest. And guess what? Michael Rappaport insisted on going through with the show, and you're never gonna guess how many people were there to protest.
Zero.
First of all, how the fuck are you guys calling yourself protesters? You don't show up when there's a little snow. But you who made this sticker, I got it, you fuck. I got the fucking sticker, asshole. You dumb motherfucker. You're not about that life. You didn't fucking show the fuck up. Look at you, fuck. You didn't a little snow. A little rivers fucking freeze, seas freeze. How the fuck are you gonna freeze the rivers and the seas when you don't come out in a little snow? I got the fucking sticker, asshole. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put some watermelons on it and I'm gonna sell it myself, you fuck.
So that's my whole point. These people are all fucking talk, and you're letting your comedy club be run by just Karens.
So,
no, wait.
But Andy, with that, I'm sorry, Joe. I got to jump in here.
Go ahead.
With that though, like you made a comment about there is no middle ground. We're all just like yelling talking heads on the extremes. That's where we are now. The more you yell, the more I have to listen to you, whether your point makes sense or not. You're a fucking asshole. You're going to scream at the top of your lungs. Well, that means I have to listen to you. Like that's where we are in our society right now, and it's horseshit.
So we talked a little bit. Was it on the mini episode that I brought up Sinclair Broadcasting, right, where they own all the news stations, right? The thing that Miguel or anybody, or they can't seem. It's not like it didn't seem like he didn't know this, but I don't think he understood the gravity of it. that Helium Comedy Club, that's like a national chain of comedy clubs, right? So what happens is Michael Rappaport's people get with Helium Comedy Club, and he performs at every fucking Helium all across the fucking country. You're just one stop in the Helium Comedy Club universe that he's going to get paid no matter what. So he's going to go there. It doesn't matter if anybody fucking shows up. He probably has like some deal with every fucking club or like every location for Helium. So you're just missing kind of the larger point of business, doing business and capitalism and being a business person is more important than how you feel about Michael Rappaport.
But it's not, Joe. You see, I already said this. My outrage is more important than your business.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
But it's my outrage.
Okay. So now I want to get into this because hang on. This is the only news item that exists about what we're talking about right now. I want to give full credit to this my boy here, Christian Toto, who writes this Hollywood and Toto, a right take on entertainment. This was the only news item that I could find even talking about this. So I mean, I felt we had to talk about it, but this rounds it up so well. So Kurt Metzger, Jim Florentine, Dave Smith, and Luis J. Gomez deemed problematic. And okay, a Seattle comedy club just canceled 4 comedians from its winter spring schedule after careful consideration. And he kind of rounds up what we already read, that email. So then Kurt here writes, I'm sorry, but this is too funny not to immediately put on blast. Also, am I mistaken that this club is in Seattle's historic Chaz district? Kurt looks up towards heaven. Thank you, George Floyd, for the fun I'm about to have with this on Twitter after I take a quick shit. BRB. And like I said, these guys don't need our help. We're only doing this right now as a fan of comedy, as a consumer of comedy, as somebody that wishes that Kurt Metzger was coming to comedy at the Carlson, as somebody that loves Jim Florentine and wishes the best for Jim Florentine. And then all right, so this is where he posted the email, and I said this is where they were gonna the name of the comedy club owner, Jess Anderson, right? So Jess Anderson, just take the word comedy off of your title here. Just say bar owner and booker, because you're not a champion of comedy.
You don't know anything about comedy.
Right. So
let me just throw this in before we move on. These 4 guys deemed problematic. You know what I have to say to that? Where the fuck have you been? Like, that's old news. Like, you can't come to me in 2024 and say these 4 guys are problematic to what we think about comedy. Okay? They haven't changed. They've been doing this successfully for years.
Mm-hmm.
And you're coming out. All you're doing is telling everybody how you fucking feel right now. You don't have to tell me about Kurt Metzger and Jim Florentine and Luis and Dave. Like, you don't have to tell me jack shit about who they are. All right? You're just revealing yourself to be a fucking idiot.
Right. And then this was Lewis's reaction. He said, yes, on today's Real Ass podcast. But to be fair, it's their right to book who they want to book. They weren't particularly shitty about it. I'll find another venue. I would not have chosen to make a stink about this. There are plenty of venues that will not book us. I mean, that's true. I do feel like, Luis and Dave, they play in that sandbox where they're going to get on, people's radar about being controversial. But I'm more concerned that the Capitol Hill Comedy Club doesn't go to bat for First Amendment rights.
Well, and I was going to jump in on that too, because as I'm listening to this and I'm reading this and I'm going through this with you, it's like these guys say offensive things because it's fucking funny, right? Like, that's part of comedy, is to like sensationalize things and like have enough truth in it that it makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable. That's what makes really good comedy. And the fact that, well, our sponsors and the people in our community don't like the idea of this. Well, okay, that's all well and good, but the key to the First Amendment is not necessarily liking what people say. It's just being like, hey, you're allowed to say that. Yeah, it's pretty shitty, and I don't agree with it, but you know what? That means I can say something shitty too.
Right. But we need champions of this right now. And we've had, like Joe was saying, the people were protesting Dave when he was trying to come here.
Mhm.
And did he still go through with the show, Joe? Do you remember? They still had him on, right?
Oh yeah, there was only like 3 protesters.
Well, that's the
Well, it's
whole
because it
point.
snows here.
Yeah,
If we've learned anything from Rappaport, it snows here, so that the protesters don't show up.
Right. Lucky for us. But this article goes on to have a quote from Jess Anderson. A stand-up herself offered a laughable defense of the art form in her note, where we truly value the art of comedy and diverse perspectives it brings to our lives. Her club regularly features open mic comedians, and who knows what they may say on a given night. Capitol Hill also shares a regular showcase dubbed Queers on the Front. But God, it's just making me so aggravated that a comedy club would not. It's just like bending to the will of people that have no idea what comedy actually is.
Well, and see, the other piece of this too is you're going to the Pacific Northwest. Like, this is the home of people that take themselves way too seriously, but they consider themselves like these liberal, open-minded, intelligent people, and they're taking the wrong stance on this.
Yeah,
Correct.
You're free.
Like-
you're free to overdose on heroin in the Pacific Northwest, but if you want to say something, we're not going to allow that.
Yeah, because I'm going to say some nasty words and talk about sex. That's what's going to get. That's the important thing that we can't share with people.
But that's the thing that I remember about Dave Smith getting protested in Rochester was when he went back and he talked to Lewis and he talked to Big J and he's talking to other comedians. What he said was how great the Carlson was, how great Mark and I would assume Vinny, how supportive they were, that they were not going to let a comedian's fan base or career or anything that they had to say be interrupted by what the vocal minority would think. And like
that's the key term.
Yeah,
the vocal minority.
Right.
It goes back to the other part of the whole other part of this. It's like you need to have those champions to stand up and go, listen, we understand that this is the minority and these people are fucking morons. They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
And to wrap all this up, I'm so mad about this because I had just felt like we were turning a corner on this woke horse shit, and then it's all blown back up in our face like this in a really relevant and like way that is significant to me. I mean, just to be like, oh, I met Jim Florentine once, and he was really nice to me, so I'm really upset about this. I mean, that's gay, but I just
and what's really funny is he would say the exact same thing.
Yeah, like I've been saying from the beginning, he doesn't need my help. He doesn't need me to say any of this, except that if he was coming to the Carlson and they canceled it out from under me, I would be pissed. If it was Metzger, I've never seen Metzger live. I want to see Metzger. If they canceled it out from under me, I would be pissed. So if I live in Seattle and they did this shit, I would be livid. And I brought it up multiple times to multiple people. They just brought Blazing Saddles back on HBO after multiple years of people saying, oh, you can't show that anymore. You can't listen to Baby It's Cold Outside anymore. All these dumb fucking things that they're taking away from people. They finally brought Blazing Saddles back to HBO. But what they did was put a caveat at the beginning to explain to fucking idiots that all the people that are canceling Metzger, canceling Jim Florentine, they all need to go and watch this beginning prelude to Blazing Saddles, because they introduce the movie, so and they have to explain comedy to morons.
This movie is an overt and totally audacious spoof of classic Westerns, and it's as provocative today as it was when it premiered back in 1974. Richard Pryor remained involved with the project as a screenwriter, and his groundbreaking style of calling out racism through bold and daring comedy helped to shape the tone and content of this film. It blended well with Mel Brooks' own daring approach to comedy, where absolutely nothing is off limits and jokes can tackle any and every sensitive subject. Warner Brothers executives were sure that this offbeat and vulgar movie would flop, but instead it turned out to be the studio's biggest hit of the year and went on to earn 3 Oscar nominations, including one for the brilliant Madeline Kahn as Best Supporting Actress.
Yeah, so shows what they fucking know.
Right.
They're
So
unfunny fucking people. They don't know shit.
I think that's Jacqueline Stewart, and they, that's where we're at now, where people need to be spoon-fed why satire exists, why comedy is okay, why you don't need to lose your mind over jokes, right?
Not only that, but because I pulled that clip, so it rolled me right into Chris Gore talking about it. He's just an online film guy, if people don't know. But what he said was, the part that I chopped out of there was her explaining the whole fucking movie to you. Yeah. It's just like you click play on a movie, and then this bitch comes on, and I mean, I don't know if there's much to spoil in Blazing Saddles, but she explains like the entire fucking thing and like why it's okay for you to watch this movie or something like that.
Dude, why I don't know why you're making it like her fault that she has to explain it. She needs to do that because morons are going to, because in the first 3 minutes of that movie, there's like 3 racial slurs, and people can't wrap their brains around the fact that it's supposed to be in the context of a joke. Like they can't sit there and wait for the premise to be explained before they get offended.
Just excuse me while I whip this out.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. Like it's there's so many classic parts to that movie. It's one of the funniest movies of all time.
Right.
Yeah, but
because it's so offensive.
But still, Joe, like you can't blame her for explaining what you're going to watch. It's because people need to have it explained to them.
Well,
that's
and I mean,
why that's there now.
It's also the same reason why they have to put the explanation in the front of Gone with the Wind.
Right.
No. Yeah.
And why they have and why they had to change Mark Twain's books and all of it. Like, you can't just look at something at face value and be like, hey, listen, in 1887, this was written this way because that's how people fucking talked. It's not appropriate today, but guess what? In 1887, it was.
The problem, or the way I see this, is that these people want to pretend or want me to change my thinking to the idea that this has gone away, that the N-word doesn't exist anymore. It's all still here. Like they want to pretend like somebody's delicate sensibilities have never heard this word before. They all hear it. We went through it when we covered Joe Rogan, and we talked about Joe Budden's like contract negotiation versus Joe Rogan's contract negotiation, and that like the word shock jock is almost weaponized against Black people in a way that if you're a shock jock and you're white, you're cool. If you're a shock jock and you're Black, you're a problem. And it's all, but what it really boils down to is the business of it. It's not like you're going to run into black people who are just like, oh my God, the N-word, my pearls. Like, that's not how they feel about it. They know that there's going to be racism. Everyone knows that there's racism and problems all around them. Okay. What they really want is a fair shake. What anybody really wants is a fair shake. And talking about like this as if the movie itself is a problem is absurd.
Yeah. Black people are not the problem. The movie is not the problem. It's these liberal people that think that they control language and and think that they can take things away from other people and that their opinion is better than somebody else's opinion.
I believe it was best said by the late 90s and early 2000s poet Zach De La Rocha. Who controls the past now controls the future. Who controls the present now controls the past.
Yeah.
Very good.
No, exactly.
And I think as long as we're trying to clean up the past, then it goes back to the AI conversation we had before, where if I clean it up enough, two generations from now, I have spoon-fed morons,
right,
that I can mold to do whatever I want.
Correct. And to Ed's point, I want to encourage everybody to go check out the mini episode that we just did right before this show. It features all kinds of takes on what's going on with AI and how people laziness is ruining this country. I know that this show is supposed to be about all apologies, and one facet of that is demanding an apology, and I'm demanding an apology from Capitol Hill Comedy Club because you can't run your business like that. You have to think about what your clientele wants and not what the people that aren't going to show up to your club want. So in that regard,
on behalf of the fans who didn't get to see, like I'll just Dave Smith, for instance, he's a family man who doesn't have the time to fuck around like this. If he's booked somewhere and he's just gonna be like, fine, I'll go home and hang out with my kid. You know, then the guy out in Seattle who always wanted to see Dave Smith perform doesn't get to. That's who I'm demanding an apology for. Those people is who I'm demanding an apology for.
All the people that had tickets for that Kurt Metzger show deserve an apology from you for not going to bat for the comedians that are gracious enough to come to your establishment when they can just go somewhere else that actually appreciates them. So on behalf of all those people, you get this.
Now fuck that. Fuck you. Fuck that. Look at him. He's nothing, guy's a piece of shit.
And yeah. And I'm going to encourage all of our listeners to please support free speech and support comedy. Maybe this wasn't funny. I hope it was kind of interesting and funny. But if you think that people deserve to be able to watch what they want to watch and enjoy what they want to watch, go check out the All Apologies Instagram account. We demand and issue apologies every day. We cover all the apologies that pop up in the news. Seems to be nothing but AI, but you can go there and comment and leave your apologies, demand apologies. Please rate and review us everywhere that you listen to podcasts. For Fat Edzee, for Joe Sixpack, I'm Andy Q Public saying,
stay sorry.
Sorry.